Queen Elizabeth, for some reason, decided to go Protestant because she wanted to go easy on her subjects because they had all been Protestant under her father for quite a while, and Mary had moved away and gone to Scotland to rule, and she had become Catholic because that was the religion of her husband and of Scotland. So she was she tried to.
Complex than that. It's a bit more complex than that. I know a thing or two about English history.
I'm just trying to break it down. Break it down better for us. I'm not saying it very well.
Well, okay. Because the reason is probably because there were two Marys. Okay. I mean, you know about Henry VIII, right?
Yeah.
But he was the one that first broke the Church of England off and actually killed the head of the Church of England at the time, Sir Thomas More. I shall die the king's good servant, but England's first. I actually played that in high school.
And that was probably so he could marry another wife or divorce a wife.
Yeah. Catherine of Aragon, who was devoutly Catholic. Of course she was. She was one of the daughters of Ferdinand and Isabella. Okay. So, of course, this is a political marriage, and he was about to abrogate it, and that got him into, some problem with the devoutly Catholic sovereigns of Spain, who had just, A, kicked out the Moors, and B, sent Columbus on his particular voyage. So he had two daughters, finally, Mary and Elizabeth. Mary was the first. That's the one they call Bloody Mary. She's the one who directly took over from him, and she tried to lead England back into the church. Not real popular. But the other, which was a cousin of theirs, was Queen of Scotland, Mary, Queen of Scots. And she was running into problems imposing Catholicism in Scotland because the Scots Highlanders had already, the Scots presbyters were already on their own, had nothing to do with England directly. They were on their own. They saw what was happening in Germany with Martin Luther. Then they look over next door in England. And he says, well, let's do this. They were followers of a Swiss theologian called John Calvin, which neither the Lutherans nor the Anglicans ever were. But be that as it may, the Scots presbyters broke their church off. And so you began a long struggle between Protestant and Catholic in Scotland. And so, of course, Elizabeth's going to take the side of the Protestants against the Catholics. The Catholics were there in the lowlands where, Glasgow and Edinburgh were, and where Mary, Queen of Scots was. So you got two Marys. That's the usual confusion between Bloody Mary, which was the first queen after Henry VIII, who was deposed by Elizabeth, her sister. And then cousin up north across, Hadrian's Wall there, Mary, Queen of Scots. And so it was in support of Scottish Protestants, but inter alia was a mechanism by which English rule over Scotland was also being arranged, you see. So a lot of different things, it's often, as is often the case, that were taking place under the fig leaf of religious differences. Okay. Because, again, you had separate Protestant Catholic, and Ireland wasn't even in the picture at this time. Nobody was bothering Ireland yet, except for the fact that Elizabeth happened to be the hereditary monarch of Ireland, too. That had been the case after the Normans came storming in. The Normans stormed England, right? And it just kept going. It just kept coming. Here comes, what's his name? William the Conqueror, and his cousins just keep coming over from Normandy. They're under pressure. The French are taking over Normandy.
Right.
And so they're under pressure to get out. And so they just keep coming. Just go, what are we going to do? Hey, look, there's a dispute going on between the princes of Ireland. Let's settle the dispute. And that's when Ireland first got saddled with an English monarch. But this was during feudal days when they were all good Catholics. It would be centuries later that the Reformation would percolate. Okay. Right. So Ireland and England had the same monarch. I don't believe Scotland did at the time. In fact, I'm pretty certain Scotland was still independent. Ireland and England were independent. They had the same monarch, but they had different parliaments. Okay, you had the English Parliament, you had the Dáil Éireann.
We have about 10 minutes left. I want to interject here that we think we have come so far since the time when we had monarchs instead of a democracy. And it seems to me now very obvious that we are setting ourselves back to those times by dividing ourselves up by religion and, banning Muslim travel because they're Muslims and yelling at people in turbans and cussing them out because they're wearing turbans and so they must be ISIS or ISIS terrorists, Muslim ISIS terrorists or Muslim radicals, whatever you want to call them. Seems to me we've set ourselves back to the 1500s and 1600s when we came from England, and we came from there in order to leave that religious persecution behind us. And we are now doing this to ourselves again. And how ridiculous is this, people? This is so ridiculous. And I am just waiting for everybody to wake up and see that you are doing it to yourselves right here in America today.
Well, I don't know if the Yankees are going to wake up or not, but hopefully sufficient numbers of us out here in California are. And we have such a long, glorious history of being on the right side of this and fighting how long, you ask? Mm-hmm. Well, the organizer of our first independence move, Juan Bautista Alvarado, was a strong fighter both for indigenous rights, to return the mission lands to its original owners, to the ones who were working it, and end, feudalism, basically, of the Catholic Church. And at the same time, he was also for religious toleration. And, he got kind of fought to a standstill on both points within the California independence movement of the 1830s. Okay. There were other people that, stopped him halfway. Mm-hmm. But we have a tradition of fighting for those things that goes all the way back to our beginnings. That's why I proudly fly his flag, which wasn't really his flag, but it was the battle flag. So It could be distinguished from the flag of the other side.
The white flag with the red star on it, folks. That's the battle flag of California. Yes?
Yeah. Which we are so honored that in the 20th century it was adopted by the Red Army. But that's ours. Okay. Thank you. Here. Go ahead. Use our red star.
Absolutely.
So much. Okay.
Mimicry is the highest form of flattery. Mm-hmm. If someone is doing what you've been doing, because they've seen you doing it, that's the highest form of, that's their way of saying, wow, that's really cool. I need to be doing it that way too. Because your way is, just great. It's better than mine.
Mm. Well, that's why I fly that battle flag, white flag, red star. Mm-hmm. All the actions. Wear the cap, my shirt, whatever. My business card for honorary consulate. How's that for something made up?
Right.
Added features of that, and I'm waiting for other people to start wasting that.
Yeah, folks, if you look for Hannah Miyamoto on the Zazzle.com site, Zazzle, that's 3 Z's from the end of the alphabet, Zazzle.com, you'll find some California goods being sold on her Zazzle page. So have a look there for California-made items. Because the more you wear them, the more you use them, the more people will remember that California is a place to be proud of, because we have always taken pride in and built up our immigrant population because they have always put into our economy. They have always built up our economy, and they have always been innovators and productive and constructive here in California. And
Where do you think chop suey came from?
Yeah.
How about sourdough bread?
San Francisco. And same with fortune cookies. And the more
it's from Baja.
Exactly. The more you show California pride to everybody around you, the more they'll remember how much California has to be proud of and how special we really are. Matt, can you think of some ways in which California is really unique and special?
My goodness. I mean, where shall I begin? Right back from our beginnings, it was always people traveling back, since before the European Holocaust. It was a very rich collection of nations. And then come the Spaniards, dropped like a bomb, and, usurping the indigenous folks. But always our independence movement, whether it be from Spain, from Lopez de Santa Anna, Donald Trump of Mexico, which I guess makes Trump the Lopez de Santa Anna of the U.S., from him and his repeated usurpations. And those are independence movements, mind you. The secession movement, the Bear Flag movement, wasn't an independence movement. That's the other reason I use this flag. That was a secession movement with one object: the annexation of California by the U.S., which they succeeded in doing, by the way. So I don't like the Bear Flag. Other people, they say, well, everybody flies the Bear Flag, and that's fine. Or they base their designs on it. And so those are really lovely designs. But that was 1846, not 1830s. Okay. And so it resulted almost immediately. On the 4th of July, we're going to be remembering that fact. That is to say, our Anschluss with the U.S., our annexation by the U.S. Because it happened around about July 4th. So, we have our ideas about, we can burn with those lovely fireworks now, don't we? Okay.
Yeah.
Got a video doing that. But basically, coming up is the anniversary of authentic independence, which, took a few days. 3rd of July, the Declaration of Independence was written, and the troops were mustered. Not the 4th of July, the 3rd of November. 3rd of November, the troops were mustered. 4th of November, they attack the Mexican Presidio at Monterrey. 7th of November, they convince the garrison of Monterrey to surrender. And they know they don't have much time because sooner or later, the Mexican Federals will have to send troops. And so they, take as quick as they can and have a, triumphal parade in which they announce the liberation of California. Okay, that's on the 7th. From the 3rd to the 7th is when we're going to hold our consulta. Okay.
So, Matt, where can they contact you to find out more about these events?
Okay. What I did, like I say, I was originally targeting the 4th, which is a Sunday. But other people are doing events at which, we can set up polling places, which happen to fall between the 3rd and the 7th, which is kind of nice. On the 3rd, there is going to be, out in front of the Mexican consulate of L.A., a demonstration demanding that the immigrants coming north in the Caravanas be let through. Okay, presenting that demand to the Mexican consulate, and I'm going to set up my polling place there, because that also happens to be the day that our Declaration of Independence was, first printed out. It was circulated on the 4th. Then on the 7th, Refuse Fascism is going to be doing their thing in San Bernardino, out on Court Street, and I think either D&E. Okay, they're going to be doing their thing, and I'm going to set my polling place up there, because that is the day that California was actually liberated from the misrule of Santa Anna the first time. And that wasn't, by the way, about being annexed by the U.S. No, it wasn't. Unlike a decade later with the Bear Flag. The Bears were infamous for that, but not in 1836. And so it'll be in that range of days, the beginning of which I'll be in L.A. in front of the Mexican consulate, the end of which I'll be out in San Bernardino with a few